This video is from March 2019, where 7 of us went up to the Death Valley area and Lone Pine, California area from Mike Easton's shop there on a Friday afternoon into the Angeles National Forest. 7 of us. We had Mike and his son Sean. We had Steve Green as well as James Blackwell, Dave Mushevek, and Greg Stevens. That's 7 guys. 2 of the guys would end up not returning with the group. As we go through Mojave here by all these mannequins, 2 had motorcycle issues, and so did I. We'll talk more about that later. But making our way up along the 395 highway towards Lone Pine. Here on our first dirt, riding kind of on top of the California Aqueduct. It had rained quite a bit the week or 2 before, so lots of standing water. It limited where we could go in Death Valley because there was a lot of snow and ice up in the mountains. So, but it did make for some good sticky traction on this otherwise pretty loose sand. We're loaded down with some camping gear, so the bikes are probably weighing about 600 pounds here. There's the aqueduct pipe above us as we cross through some of the ravines. James's bike ahead of me here was already having some issues in idling, so at the end of this little road section, he peeled off and went back home. You see the beautiful day here, probably 100-mile visibility all through the weekend. Sean had a little slip here on the berm as we're going around all these big mud puddles, but otherwise a nice little excursion here on the way up to the hotel. This is all washed out from the prior couple days rainstorms. Just sand kind of moved around, but not a big problem. Pretty good traction here in some of the mud. So here you can see the additional leaning of the bikes in the wind as we migrate up towards Lone Pine as the sun's starting to set, and we end up at the hotel in Lone Pine. There's the snow on the eastern side of the Sierras, and here we are parked at the hotel parking lot that evening. No camping this trip, just hotels both nights, primarily because of the cold weather, but it makes a little bit lighter packing for the trip. The next morning is typical practice for us to go to the Alabama Hills Cafe in Lone Pine, which is where we're parked here for a huge breakfast. Fill ourselves up with coffee and food, and then we typically have a snack on the trail for lunch. No exception on this day. This is Saturday now, so just absolutely spectacular scenery riding through the Alabama Hills section just to the west of Lone Pine. Most people don't even know this exists just off the highway. You can actually take your car and four-wheel drive vehicle on many of these little trails, but at this time of year the snow is still very prominent in the Sierras. That's Mount Whitney area up on the ridge just to the west of where we're riding, but just really neat back here. We've camped in here before. There's a little bit of water flowing. Again, nice wet sand for traction, some rocks to go around. Just kind of a fun maybe hour or so we spent back here before making our way back over towards Death Valley. Again, without James on this trip, there's a couple of the guys, Steve and Dave. That white bike is mine. There's Sean, Mike in the background, and Greg with his Adventure GS as well. So just a quick little snack and relax there, and then back out again in the Alabama Hills. Great place for just a little relaxed trail riding and some fantastic scenery. So we kind of putzed around here for a little bit, and then ultimately made our way back out to the highway and went back around and started to enter the Death Valley area. So here we're headed east, and then got up to the Saline Road, and this would be the Hunter, I think it's Hunter Mountain Road that we started going in here. The road says closed. It's just because the pass in the distance is up in the snow, so it's definitely snow and ice cover on the back side of the mountain. So we started to make our way up on this fairly benign trail, and right about here Sean had a issue. His shock absorber in the rear fell apart and the shaft fell out of it, and he had no damping whatsoever in the bike, just a spring. So it was quite a interesting ride back for him. There's Steve following him, and we sent Sean on his way now back home. So now on the second day we've already lost 2 motorcycles. All the guys got back safely, James and Sean, and then we continued now with 5 people down towards Panamint Springs. This is in the western edge of Death Valley, coming down the range. Just spectacular here on the Saturday afternoon. Steve in front of me here Mike in the lead, and went down to the bottom of the valley, and then we looped back around to go up the old toll road. This is kind of a fun little, just a gravel, good trail, nice scenery, just in the gravel washes, and it ends up back in a little kind of dumpy mining town called Darwin. So we ended up there after going through these washes and emerged back up on top of the hill at the top of Panamint Springs. This was kind of a backtrack loop, but just to get on some dirt and get in these washes, we spent I don't know, probably an hour or two back in this trail. It goes down on the wash, comes back to the top of the hill, and up to Darwin. So just a really nice afternoon. I skipped over some of the roads into Death Valley, though. This is actually a new section of the trail that we discovered towards Beatty, Nevada, after we got through Death Valley. And you see where my bike stopped a little earlier in the video and just kind of landed a little bit on a rock. That was an unusual hit in that I found out much later that I damaged my engine control unit. From this point on the ride, I had very strange idle and all kinds of bad behavior on my bike. It was rideable, but very challenging with no engine braking. I would find out later after much work that I damaged and had to get a new ECU for my bike. So not a happy moment, but rideable. So this is the next morning after staying overnight in Beatty, Nevada, and rode through Rhyolite. It's an old mining town just at the edge of Death Valley on the east side. And then managed to get a trail to the just go across the desert here. This is in Death Valley, but just heading up north towards a place called Bonnie Claire, which is nothing more than a little intersection. And then over to Scotty's Castle Road, which is what this is. This has been washed out for several years, and we managed to explore this. I won't go into all the details about all the gates we went through, but managed to get down that road and stayed away from that snowstorm you see in the distance. We were going to go through some more back roads, but decided not to go through the snow. So this is back after coming down Scotty's Castle Road, and stopped for lunch. Had a little snack, just admiring the beautiful geology. This is right in the middle of Death Valley. Just fantastic scenery. Probably 100 miles of visibility here on this day. Then back south, eventually peeled off as we left Death Valley proper, and then ended up with Greg taking off to go back home at that point. So we've got 4 of us now: Steve, Mike, Sean, and myself, because Greg's going back home. And now we're going through Wild Rose Canyon. We see the park ranger up here because we went through another gate on a road we've been through many times, but they were not happy with us and asked us to turn around. We did manage to, through our good looks and honesty, not to get a big ticket, each of us. So because we'd gone through a gate, but the guys turned us around because they said the road was impassable up ahead. So got back out of the park, went back down to Panamint Springs and through Ballarat here. This is an old mine, another old mail stop, and then up by the this is the radar unit for the Air Force Base, and do a lot of test flights coming through here. We did not see any jets on this day, but that's what that radar unit was. And back up towards Trona on our way back home. This is Sunday afternoon after riding about half a day, and then got back off into the Spangler Hills area, taking some back roads here in the dirt again. By this time, Steve's taken off, so we've just got Mike and Dave and I. So we started with 7, now we're down to 3, and three bikes had been broken by that point. But just kind of a little fun ride in the Spangler Hills area up by Ridgecrest and up in the northern part of the Mojave Desert. Following Mike here in some nice slippery sandy washes here. Good practice riding on these 500-pound heavy bikes, and then took a little shortcut ride across the desert here, just a high speed. Nice way to end the ride. So now we're kind of heading back home. You see a big snowstorm and a rainstorm over Simi Valley, and we're coming back down the highway towards Simi Valley in the rain, and getting home just in time for dinner. Listening to music, looking for the sunset. Great ride.